Things fall apart. The center cannot hold.
We're still here.
Okay, and everybody in the country who engages in politics knows that. On the other hand, that's very, very different than saying that, you know, someone's a bully. I am who I am, but I am not a bully.
Welcome back to HardBall. Chris Christie was seen by some as the savior of the Republican Party, a somewhat moderate force who could possibly capture his party's nomination in 2016. In some polls, in fact, he was even slightly beating Hillary Clinton. But for the past week, he's been the punchline for late-night comedians and a target for Democrats and even some Republicans. Can Christie survive politically? And if he can't, if he's hobbled by this scandal, where does that leave the Republican Party after he's out of the running? Who better to discuss all of this than Bill Maher, the host of Real Time with Bill Maher, which, thank God, returns this weekend with new episodes this Friday at 10 o'clock on HBO. Bill is, by the way, a son of the great state of Jersey. Bill, I have to say, I'm going to warm you up now because I always have to be careful about you because I don't know which way you're going on me. Your show is, without doubt, the #1 show I could ever appear on, besides this one, of course. Every time I do your show, about two times, 3 times a year, every single person I meet says, I saw you on Maher. So you must have incredible ratings, even though they don't matter on HBO. So now I've done it.
Yeah, we actually do. Yeah, we do have incredible ratings. It's a well-kept secret in the media, but so much is, Chris.
Let's talk about you in the media. You're from Jersey. Does this smell like Jersey or smell like Chris Christie? Do you smell the fact that there's somebody going to testify like a John Dean in a couple of weeks? I'm betting and hoping, actually, for Bridget Kelly to talk about what really was like working for this big guy and what the orders were and the signals were and the atmosphere was. Right. And that's why she had this conversation, time for traffic problems in Fort Lee, as if she'd been having this conversation for months. Your thoughts?
Well, I don't think they'll ever find a smoking ham, you know, to attribute to Chris Christie directly. I think he's too clever for that. That's not how thugs work. The whole reason that you hire someone like Bridget Kelly is to carry out orders like this that you don't actually give. Remember when Benedict was the God's Rottweiler or the Pope's Rottweiler, they called him before he got the Pope job? Well, she's Blob's Rottweiler, okay? She knows to do this without actually having to be told. It's the atmosphere. What I think is interesting, that I find new about a scandal like this, is I never knew before of a scandal where an administration, maybe it wasn't Christie himself, but the administration actually purposely inflicted pain on its own citizens to make a point to other politicians. I mean, Nixon had an enemies list, but he carried out his vengeance directly against the people who were his enemies. He didn't, use the people of America as hostage shields. Yeah,
I remember hitchhiking as a kid, and this couple, kind of a rough couple, because that's who you hitchhiked with. One of them was torturing the kid, punishing him some way, slapping him, to get even with the person, the other spouse. I mean, it was horrible to sit in the back seat, but it's like this. Why would you go punish somebody to sort of send a weird kind of message to your other guy? I mean, first of all, what was the purpose of doing it? He wasn't going to like you afterwards. What would be the message? That don't mess with me because I'm going to screw your commuters? And by the way, somebody might get killed, or somebody might have a terrible situation like we've been recounting on this show. But the hell with that. I'll get my message across. By the way, here, let me ask you about this. You deal in comedy, but not sarcasm. Here's the governor's first reaction. I believe sarcasm never works with a politician for some reason. Here he is reacting when it first was nailed on him, and they came back at him in the press. Here was his mock response to a question. Let's watch.
I worked the cones, actually, Matt. Unbeknownst to everybody, I was actually the guy out there. I was in overalls and a hat, so I wasn't, but I actually was the guy working the cones out there. You really are not serious with that question.
There you go. Didn't work, did it?
No, it didn't work, and it never does. Politicians can't do that. Politicians should, in general, not try to be funny. That almost never works. It's not what people are looking for in a politician. That's our job to make the jokes. But, you know, I also don't think that this is going to be a scandal that's going to affect him negatively with the people in his own party. He keeps saying, I'm not a bully. Sure, he's a bully, and that's what they like about him, is that he's a bully. If he's not a bully, who is he? He's just Lamar Alexander. They are always looking for a bully in that party. They loved Sarah Palin. Remember?
Let's not
Sarah
generalize.
Palin was a bully. I'm sorry?
Let's not generalize. He's got to go to Iowa, where you and I know they really have distaste for any rough talk or hardball behavior. Then it may be in New Hampshire. You tell me which states are going to like this kind of personality, this thuggish, as you describe, personality. Which states? South Carolina? Are they going to go for it?
Everywhere where there are Republican primary voters, where there are the kind of voters who booed the gay soldier, who cheered when somebody said, you know, what should we just let people die? Those Republican primary voters are in every state, and in every state they're going to like Chris Christie. This is not the disaster for him that people think it is. I don't think so. I think it's Miley Cyrus. It looks like a scandal when she was twerking at the VMA Awards, but it turned out that it just made her a bigger star.
I think you're the only person that would make that comparison.
All I saw was every network covering Chris Christie's State of the State speech. When did you ever see networks cover a governor's State of the State speech? He's just a bigger star than ever right now.
Let's turn over the pillow to the Pope. I know you're not a practicing religious person. You're an atheist, I think, pretty much, which is fair because you're honest about it. And now the Pope, because it seems to me everybody I know, especially people who are not Catholic, Jewish, Protestant people, whatever, all my friends and workers, they all come up to me and they say, I really like this new Pope. Is it because he's not exactly talking about religious belief? He's talking about human ideal behavior toward each other, and it's something that we could all look to. I don't know how you're going to react to this, but it seems like he's struck a note here that even the president, it looks like in his State of the Union, is going to talk about the inequality of economic life in this world.
Right. Well, I mean, he keeps shaking things up in a way we have never really seen a pope do. I mean, he just appointed a bunch of new cardinals, which is kind of the way a pope does redistricting. And none of them were from America, you know. They were all from third world places. You know, I'm sure the people in the Vatican, that entrenched bureaucracy that he's trying to unseat, I'm sure they're going nuts because he keeps saying things that must just blow their minds. The first thing he said when he got into office was that atheists get into heaven. You know, when he said that, they were like, we got to prepare the poison now.
Yeah, that's not good for business.
He said,
let me tell you, though, I have to tell you, Bill, I went to church this Sunday, and I got to tell you something. It was packed. And as I was going out of church, a guy said, is this the Pope that's doing this? Is this Francis? That's fascinating stuff from our point of view, I think. That he could actually be bringing people back to listen to what's been said by this guy, this leader.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's kind of the Gorbachev of the Catholic Church. Yeah. And I think ultimately maybe his goal is to kind of bring it down.
Maybe the FW to the clerk, I would say, maybe. The guy that sees the time has to change.
Something like that.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, Bill, I love your show. I'm not just blowing smoke. Your show is amazing. It's always challenging to be on because I never know what I'm supposed to do except listen to you. Anyway, Real Time with Bill Maher returns this Friday night at 10 o'clock on HBO. And you can catch him doing stand-up in February. He'll be in Mobile, Alabama on the 8th of February and at Corpus Christi, Texas on the 9th. These one-night shows are spectacular. Thank you, Bill Maher. Up next, how would you restore Chris Christie's reputation if you were in the business? We've got a couple of political heavyweights coming here to play crisis manager. And you'll recognize them. They know what's going on, and they're going to help this guy, I think. This is HardBall, Place for Politics.
And finally, new rule. Before leaving this election behind, we must all thank Donald Trump for the one good thing he did. He exposed evangelicals, who are big Trump supporters, as the shameless hypocrites they've always been. Yeah. I don't know if you noticed, but Republicans didn't get to play the Jesus card this time around because it's hard to bring up the 10 Commandments when your candidate spent his life breaking all of them. Trump's commandments are like the regular commandments with LOL at the end. Adultery? Check. Cursing?
Listen, you motherfuckers.
Check. Stealing? Check. Bearing false witness?
Wrong.
Check. False idols? Oh, yeah. He is the world's least godly man. Jesus saw the good in whores and lepers, but if he met Donald Trump, he'd go, sorry, man, that's a pre-existing condition. New rule, someone must invent a marijuana vaporizer that's hooked up to the internet, so every time Trump tweets, it releases a cloud of calming vapor. I recommend a hearty sativa for his afternoon threats to bomb Iran and a nice relaxing indica for his 3 a.m. attacks on Arnold Schwarzenegger. New rule, someone has to tell the people who participate in adult rapping, the new form of therapy where you get bundled up in a large swaddling cloth to alleviate your posture problems, that, yeah, that's not a thing. No one is looking at you and thinking, there's the future of orthopedics. We're all looking at you and thinking, is it garbage night? Okay, new rule, Azalea, the chimp at a North Korean zoo that smokes a pack of cigarettes a day, has to admit she also keeps a bottle of vodka in a tree, has a 4-pill-a-day Valium habit, and Snapchats with her old college boyfriend. Just don't judge. It's hard out here for a chimp. New rule, now that Ireland passed a law making it illegal to have sex with someone who's passed out drunk, the Irish have to ask themselves 2 questions. 1, why wasn't this a law to begin with? And 2, where is the next generation going to come from? New rule, someone has to help me decide which was funnier. The part of the inauguration where George Bush was unable to put his rain poncho on, or the part where Dick Cheney leaned forward and said, Jesus, you're still a dumb shit. New rule, liberals must stop pretending that we are better than this. If we were, would you be in the street holding a sign that says we're better than this? I'll tell you who's better than this, Finland. New rule, people who bring emotional support animals on planes have to admit they're just too cheap to buy a ticket for their dog. Come on, you need emotional support on the plane? That's what the drink card is for. New rule, stop telling me about cheese bread in restaurants like it's a dish. It's not, it's just cheese on bread. That's not a dish. It's what divorced guys eat when they run out of hot dogs. New rule, someone has to explain why it's socially acceptable to drink vodka in the morning as long as you pour tomato juice and Worcestershire sauce in it. But if I pour it over my Cheerios, I'm an alcoholic. New rule, now that rapper Coolio and his bodyguard have been arrested for possessing a loaded stolen gun while trying to board a plane, some very serious questions need to be asked, starting with, Coolio as a bodyguard? New rule, someone has to tell this woman in Thailand who's impaled her face with 2 large poles that if this is what your God requires to prove your devotion, he's an asshole. New rule, someone has to tell this Chinese kid, get out of the algae. It's not good for you. Plus, hey, lunch break is over. Get back to making my iPhone. New rule, smart cars are neither smart nor cars. This really doesn't say Vanguard of Transportation. It says, I want to die in a routine fender bender. New rule, scientists have to stop studying things we already know. At the University of Toronto, they found that post-sex affection, in other words, cuddling, quote, promotes relationship satisfaction. Really? So doing it with my pants on and then jumping out the window was wrong? Next up, a study on how men don't like it when you point at their penis and go, are you kidding me? New rule, if an airline mixes up your kid with another kid, flies them both to the wrong cities, then reunites them with the wrong mothers, like JetBlue did last month, don't automatically assume it's a bad thing. The other kid may be smarter or better looking. In which case, don't think of it as losing a son, think of it as a free upgrade. New rule, mixologists have to understand something. You care way more about this than we do. This doesn't make me think, wow, I'm so impressed with your advisory. It makes me think, screw it, just give me a beer. New rule, someone must tell Microsoft, who are introducing software that tracks marijuana plants from seed to sale, don't. I don't need all that. I'm going to smoke it, not date it. If you want to help out stoners, invent an app that tracks where they left their lighter.